G'day everyone, welcome to Web Dev. So depending on which term you're enrolled in, you're going to have between 8 and 10 weeks to get this work completed. First of all, I just want to talk a little bit about the website we'll create. It has 4 pages. The home page is like a textbook example of using semantic web elements. So semantic elements are elements that convey meaning about their content. So let's just have a quick look at that. So on our home page, which is the index.html page, we have a series of elements such as header, which sits at the top of the page, nav, which is short for navigation, which is inside the header. We have a main element, and a side element, and an article element, and a footer element. So these elements, their names convey meaning to the user and to the browser about their content. For example, the header element is this one at the top, this black bar with our navigation inside it. A side element sits to the left-hand side in this case. Our article is this text down the bottom, and the footer is this white strip along the bottom here. So semantic elements, they convey meaning to the developer and to the browser about their content and perhaps the location of the content as well. So this web page, it also has a thing called a mobile first view. And that is when we code the page to begin with, we code for a mobile phone device first. And then as the screen gets bigger, we use a thing called progressive enhancement, and we enhance the page for larger devices, which are most likely more powerful devices as well as being larger devices. Now, one of the reasons why we cater for the mobile first is because more people connect to the internet with a mobile than other types of devices. That's one reason. And also mobile devices tend to have, when you're out and about on your mobile data, you've got less bandwidth. Perhaps it's less powerful, less CPU and RAM than like a desktop computer. So if we cater for the mobile first and then use progressive enhancement, we're going to cover all bases. It should support every device. As well as the home page, we're going to have a photo grid, an about page, and a contact page. In fact, the about and contact page, you're quite allowed. You can do something different if you want. But the home page and the photos page are in the requirements brief, and you'll have to reproduce something or produce something similar or the same. You'll have different colors and different images and different text and things like that, though. If we look at these pages on a mobile view, the photo grid is like a 1x16 column. And then as the screen gets wider, we go to 2 columns with 8 images in each column, and then eventually 4x4, 4 columns with 4 images in each. And if we look at our about grid, this is a different type of grid that also responds to device screen size. So we can have a series of containers stacked vertically, or we can lay them out in a grid sort of format with different containers taking up different quantities or amounts of the grid area. So that's basically the web page will be producing, or a website will be producing. So let's look at a bit of the HTML code for that. So at the beginning of a HTML document, we declare the doc type. And when it's doc type HTML, that means it's a HTML5 document. We have opening and closing elements, or opening and closing tags. So an element has 2 tags generally, although sometimes only 1. So the HTML opens here, and then eventually it closes. we have the head element with an opening and closing tag. And that has information to help the page be displayed the way we want it to be displayed. So for example, title, that's the text that appears on the browser tab. And then the icon, that's the icon image that appears on the browser tab. So like we've got the Peruvian flag and the word Peru. So that's on the browser tab rather than in the body or the page itself. And then we can link to style sheets, and that's in the style sheets, which are external files. We can write all our CSS code to give our website its appearance. The viewport meta element, that helps the page to be displayed on devices with different screen sizes correctly. And the description, that helps tell a search engine or something that crawls our page about the content of our page. You can have a more wordy description. The body, that's the content, everything inside the body, opening and closing tags. Everything inside the body, that's what appears on the page itself. And we've got a header with a level 1 heading, which is the most important heading. And we've got navigation, primary navigation to other pages on the same website. So we try to use these elements which convey meaning about their content and sometimes their position as well. And they're semantic elements, and we really try to use them as much as possible, as opposed to generic elements such as div. A div is just a box or a container you put stuff in, and it doesn't have any meaning about its content. So often with divs, we give them an ID or a class for the CSS styling to identify and work with those elements. And what we can do, we can try to use more descriptive elements, such as main in this case, because this content is in between the header and the footer. So main would have been a good choice in this example. Now, when you're using Visual Studio Code, if you hover over an element, it'll tell you a bit about what it should contain or what it's likely to contain. So you can use that to your advantage. And if you think you want to use a semantic element, you can try it out. And if you haven't already read about it, Visual Studio Code will give you some information about it. And then you can probably make a good decision if it's the right or an appropriate element to use.